Everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Today we're going to talk about structures. And a structure is nothing more than a collection of nouns. Next time we're going to talk about classes, which is a collection of nouns and the verbs that act on those nouns. So we're one step shy, you can think of, a structure, which is a collection. Now the interesting thing about this collection of nouns is that you can have several different data types. For example, notice here that we have a couple of strings and we have some integers and we have a double. And all of them are underneath this structure that we're going to call student. So what is a student? Maybe you've heard some people say, I'm a product of my experiences, right? So what defines you? Well, I'm this, I'm that. Well, that's what defines a student. A student is defined by something that has a member called first name and another member called last name and so forth and so on. Okay? So we can create things that are students. For example, maybe we have a calculus student, and that calculus student's name is Robert Solis. He has a birthday, he has a GPA, say for example. So that's what a structure is. Now an array is also a collection, but an array is a collection of similar data types. So an array is either all integers or all doubles or all strings. That's not necessarily what a structure is. A structure, as you can see, can have many different data types. Okay, so how do we declare a structure? As you see here, we type in struct, whatever the structure name is going to be. Don't forget to terminate this with closing braces, curly braces, and the semicolon. So now let's create some students. So I'm going to create a student of type, and we're going to call this calculus. Calculus is the name of this particular student. Maybe I'm going to create another student. And we have calculus student 2, say for example. And I can create a biology student. I can create a computer science student, and so forth and so on, right? So this is just one student. Calculus, this particular calculus student has as members first name, last name, month, day, year, GPA. Okay. So let's get that information from the user and apply it to this student. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say to the user via a cout statement, what is your first name? The user is going to type in that data, but notice where I place it. For my calculus student, dot. Okay, so when I use the dot operator, notice that I get a listing of what this calculus student has as its members. So it has day, first name, and so forth and so on, all these items, because that's what a student is, or calculus student is. It's of type student. I'm interested in first name. So let's get the data that was typed in by the user and place it into calculus.firstname. Well, let's similarly say what is your last name? And once again, we're going to use the calculus student that we declared above, dot, and you see the listing over here. Last name is what I want, so I'll type in LA. In fact, it selects it, so I can just hit tab and then go from there. Next, let's go ahead and grab the birth month. So we'll say, what is your birth month? And with the cin statement for the calculus student, we're going to put that into this variable over here, or this member called month. Next, what is your birthday? Cin, put that into the calculus student specifically for this member, day. Next, cout, what is your birth year? Cin, calculus, and we're going to place that into year. Finally, we're going to ask the student what their GPA is. So we'll say cout, what is your GPA? we're going to put that into the calculus student dot GPA. So as you can see, the beauty of a structure is that it can have members, and those members, we have access to them with the dot property. All right, or the dot operator, I should say. All right, next, let's go ahead and work on the output section, which I'm just simply going to say, hello, Robert Solis, your birthday is, and then I'll display their birthday with hyphens in between the various numbers, and then I'll say, you know, your GPA is this, say, for example. All right. Okay, so we can create something like this. Hello, and then whatever the person's name is. Well, how do I get this student's name? Well, I know that it's the dot property, or the dot operator, is going to give me access to the members for calculus, this particular student. So I can just simply double click on first name, and I want to be able to use their last name as well, so I'll put a space in between here, and then I'll say calculus last name, followed by a period. Let's go to the beginning of the next line. And then I'll say your birthday info is, so we'll say cout, your birthday info is, and so now let's give them their birthday information. Well, I have all of that for this particular calculus student, so we'll say month, and then I'll put a hyphen in between, right? So we'll have month hyphen day hyphen year. So next would be calculus day. We'll put a hyphen in between. And then finally we'll give, for this particular student, the year. I'm going to put an end-else statement. And then finally, we'll say something like your GPA is, your GPA is, and we'll just simply output for the calculus student their GPA, followed by an end-else statement. So this is just a very simple program to introduce to you this idea of a structure within a C++ program. You're starting off, let me split the screen so you can see the code down here. You're starting off with the definition of the structure. You give it a name and you give it its members. Remember, it can have multiple different data types. To insert the information, we still use the cin statement. We declare this, as you can see here, as calculus. So the calculus is a student. Maybe I should have said like calculus student 1 or calculus, because I already have a calculus student 2. Now this hasn't been affected yet. We haven't done anything with this calculus student, but this could be a calculus student, and so now I get the person's first name, last name, all the information, and then I use that structured information to place content to the monitor. All right, so let me save my work, run the program, and let's see what happens. All right, so over here, what is your first name? We'll say Joshua. Enter. James. 5/28, 2007. GPA is 3.9. Enter. Hello, Joshua James. Your birthday info is, okay, so it looks like it took the 5/28/2007, placed hyphens in between, then just simply repeated the GPA. So again, very simple program to illustrate this concept of structures. And the beautiful thing about structures is that it's a collection of nouns, a collection of different nouns, so to speak. If it wasn't a collection of different nouns, then I guess you could just use an array. If it's just a collection of strings or a collection just of integers or just of doubles, the structure allows you to have several different data types. And that's it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.